pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, our first agenda item is the superintendent's report. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Pelletier. We have some really wonderful recognitions. Our student athletes that did some wonderful things during the spring season that oftentimes, don't get the recognition, but this is a first and hopefully a tradition.
Mr. Scavo, thank you very much. Our mics are sound for the live stream, so you may not hear the mic sound in here, but we are using the sound and the mics. Just wanted people to know that for the live stream. So thank you. Welcome to the Little Theater. We thought it'd be a bit more comfortable than our last meeting in the big auditorium. So we have a lot of folks here tonight, parents and students. We want to get started right away, as we always do, with student recognition. So we're going to ask Mr. Venator, can you let them know we're ready? Mr. Venator, would you let them know we're ready? Yep. Thank you so much. We're going to get started right away with our student recognition. Mr. Butel, our athletic director, is here to talk about some of our students. If I could just mention one other thing, Sachem Schools as a whole was recognized as a school of distinction for having student athletes across the district. The number of teams that we had as scholar athletes. Really proud of this district, the scholar athletes we have throughout. And Sachem East in particular was recognized as having teams of scholar athletes as well. So outstanding job. And North always does a great job as well. But Mr. Butel, come on in. We're going to get started.
Sure.
Thank you.
So,
Just that mic right there. Thank you. Yes, it's for the live stream. It's for the live stream.
okay, so
You don't have to do that. There you go.
It's not going to amplify.
Hello? Is it working? Yeah.
You're not going to hear it.
It's for the live stream. Just go ahead, talk into it.
Yeah.
good evening, members of the Board of Education, members of our administrative cabinet. Tonight, we're proud to be here to recognize some of our outstanding student athletes, both team-wise and individual-wise. We have some coaches here to talk on their behalf, introduce, and I'll also be introducing some of them as well. Our first team we'd like to introduce, who was a league champion and a finalist in the Suffolk County playoffs, making all the way to Bayshore in hopes of going into the Long Island Championship, state championship, is Coach Ken Sasso. Coach?
We've never done this before, so here come our girls. Keep going, yeah. This is our Sachem North 2022 League One champions. As Gary said, we were the runner-ups for the Suffolk County Championship. We were 11th in the state, with only St. Anthony's, Massapequa, and Bayshore ranked ahead of us from schools from Long Island. As a Suffolk County finalist with a 12-2 league record, after winning the League One championship in 2021, we knew that every team was coming for us. And our team welcomed the challenge. Although our team is very talented, the key to our success is that the girls truly care for and support each other through the highs and the lows. And they get great joy in their teammates' success. We are a scholar athlete team as well, and we are so proud of their accomplishments on and off the field.
Yeah, we have some. Yeah. Coach, jump in. Yeah, can we get a picture, whatever? Thank you. You know what? Have them come up on the stage. Yeah. Why don't you guys come up on the stage carefully?
You guys have some photos. There you go.
No.
No?
This work?
You might have to go back.
Want to go down the middle? They'll let you in. Back row, there's seats. Yep. There you go. Nice to all see each other again, right?
Before we all leave for school?
Is everybody here? We're missing a couple?
Oh, yeah, we're missing two girls.
Okay.
Any seniors going up this year? Yeah? Excited? Yeah. You guys going up? Mr. Scavo. Hey, sir. I can talk over that.
Great. Any parents' pictures? Good.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Our next team that we'd like to introduce, who had another great year, league champions, went into the playoffs. Unfortunately, didn't make it through the playoffs either, but they had a great season. I'm going to ask Matt Guido, one of the players, talking on the team's behalf, waiting for one of the coaches out of town, and one of the other coaches is not here yet. So Matt elected to stand up as a senior. Where are you going to college? Lake Home. So Matt's going to talk about the team accolades and how their season went, and the rest of the guys are going to stand in front.
So these are some of the members of the back-to-back League One champion Sachem East varsity baseball team. Everyone on the team, whether they were here or not, has had such an impact on the 2 seasons that we've had, whether they were JV call-ups, varsity starters, or team morale guys. Everyone had their role, and I couldn't be prouder to play with a bunch of, I guess, lovable idiots than these guys right here. The amount of accomplishments we've had through the season, we stuck together through the highs and lows, and we came out on top of it tonight, really played a key factor in our success, whether it was, doing these fun challenges, like one is the Taco Bell series where you'd split the team up into 3 teams and they would compete and the winner would get bought Taco Bell. It was things like that they did to make the practices fun and really led to our success. But at the end of the day, these are some of the guys that made the biggest impacts, and I couldn't be happier to share the field with them.
Great job, Matt. Also, scholar athlete team. Great job.
He does, right?
I think it is.
It is, right? I thought he was from syntax, no?
Me too. I thought it was.
Right, Mike.
Great job, guys. Well done.
Good job.
Yeah, he definitely gets Taco Bell for that speech. That was awesome. Next up is Coach Connor Dolan, going to talk about 2 girls that went to nationals for race walking. Coach?
If I may, I'd like to share some statistics to highlight how much Abby and Megan have accomplished this year. going back to the winter season, Abby was an all-state, all-county, and all-league athlete. Megan was an all-league, all-county, and all-American athlete. Somehow, they managed to top that stellar winter campaign in the spring. Both repeated all-league accolades and all-county honors, contributing to a team runner-up finish at the county championship for the Sachem East Flaming Arrows. In addition, Abby and Megan marked their resumes with a stop at the Penn Relays, one of the most prestigious track and field meets in the world. Their season culminated at the national championship, where they returned once more to Philadelphia and earned their spots on the podium. They are nothing shy of professional, leaders on their team who lead in both word and action, acting with clockwork precision when it's time to get to work. These athletes take such pride in what they do, yet they are humble and reserved. Abby and Megan take pride in being part of a rich Sachem tradition. Names such as Angie Colon, Marissa Sciato, Margaret Atwood, Chelsea Benedict, Holly Lindo, Lauren Harris, and Olympian Maria Mitchell-Coffey. I know these two take great pride in being part of the Sachem tradition of the race walk, and they make daily contributions to that legacy, as they are role models to their teammates, helping make Sachem East a name in track and field. They're the two best competitors on the team and have shown time and again that they can handle pain and discomfort better than anyone. Not to gloss over their day-to-day behaviors, they're a heck of a lot of fun to work with, and they're some of the silliest and most inviting athletes on our team. Every day with the race walkers is an adventure, and we can't wait for the next one. I would like to take a moment to thank the board, administration, as well as the athletic department and entire Sachem community for providing such wonderful opportunities to these young ladies and many more. None of this would be possible without such a support system elevating us every step of the way.
So, ladies, I'd like to ask a couple questions if you don't mind. First off, just grab that mic over there. Just a couple questions, that's all. You're both going to speak, don't worry. So I used to coach track, so this is right in my wheelhouse here, but I never had a national champion athlete, second in the entire nation. The United States are second, right? And sixth. How does one do that? How did you accomplish that?
Our coach.
It's all right. It's working through this. Just go ahead.
Okay. Our coaches, they put really detailed workouts for us, and they really tailor it to what we need. And I think that's mainly what helps us. Is they dedicate a lot of their time to us. It's not really our dedication. We do have dedication, but it's mostly theirs. They put in a lot of time and their effort out of their free time for us. And then,
that's very
Like
thoughtful,
training
very
every
kind of
day
you.
and
Thank you for
stuff,
training.
yeah.
So, when you walk, do you walk to school?
no.
You don't walk to school. You take the bus. Like, I'm thinking that's a missed opportunity there. Do you walk when you walk to class? Do you race walk or you regular walk?
Regular walk.
You'd be embarrassed to race walk through the halls.
Yeah.
What grade are you two in?
I'm gonna be a senior.
I'm gonna be a junior.
Oh my gosh! Walk to school and walk through the halls. So there's a special rule with race walkers. Like I watched. Like, what is the rule? Like how do you not run at the last second when someone is really close to you? How do you keep yourself from running? And what technically is walking and what's running then?
One foot has to be in contact with the ground at like every moment, and the foot that's in contact with the ground, the knee has to be straight. And there's judges around the track that judge your form, and you get paddles. And if you get too many paddles, you're disqualified.
They paddle you?
Yeah.
they show you a paddle. If
Oh,
you're,
they
like,
show you a
if you're
paddle.
breaking
Oh my
form.
goodness! I was like, that's a long time ago. We're not allowed to do that. They show you the paddle.
Yeah.
Oh, is that frightening?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you go and play ping pong at someone's house, you see a paddle, do you freak out?
Yes.
You do. You guys, really amazing. And I really appreciate what you say about the coaches. They do so much for our kids, but you have seized that opportunity and really made yourself incredible athletes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Come up, take a and there's going to be one more afterwards too. So. Both my feet are always on the ground. This is all right. Here we go. Over here.
Great job, ladies.
So to finish up our recognitions for tonight, we have some outstanding athletes from these teams that won individual honors above their team honors. The first one I'd like to call up is Rich Hader. Rich from Sachem East Baseball. He was all league, all county, all Long Islands. From Sachem East Boys Track, Christian Mercado. Christian was all division, all county, all state. From Sachem East Girls Track, really doesn't need an introduction. She's going to walk on in. Megan Hoffman, all league, all county, all Long Islands. From our Sachem East Girls Flag football team, Anna Morangello, all Long Island. Emma Perante, all Long Islands. Remember, this is the first year that we offered, you can say you're the first all-state, all Long Island candidates of girls flag football ever. You are pioneers. And from our Sachem North softball team, Mackenzie White. All county, all Long Island, League One Pitcher of the Year, and all state. Congratulations to all of you.
So it's going to conclude our student recognition portion. I understand if you want to go, please feel free to don't let me hold you back. You are certainly welcome to stay, obviously. Congrats to all the parents, brothers, sisters, grandparents, alumni. Thank you. Great to see you. He's staying. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Mr. Scott, I'm going to jump in and continue.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. First thing I wanted to talk about in the superintendent's report is school security. As you know, always first and foremost in our thoughts is security. I asked our security director, Mr. Wayne Wilson, to join us tonight. He's actually here. And I'm going to first do a little bit of an introduction and then ask Wayne to come over and grab the mic. Wayne, you can come over and grab the mic already. The mic's on for live stream, not really in here. So it'll work. Trust me. That's what I'm told. See that guy back there, Jack? He keeps giving me a thumbs up. He keeps giving me a thumbs up that it's working for the folks at home. So, and in here, we can hear pretty well. I thank you for coming tonight, Wayne. I know today you were at an important meeting with the 5th Precinct, and security, as we said, is always first and foremost in our minds. I just want to update folks. We did join a consortium or a work group of school districts with the Suffolk County Police Department, the Suffolk County DA's office, and the Suffolk County Sheriff's Department. We are a part of that work group. It's really important that we attend meetings and such. I asked Mr. Wilson to attend one of those meetings today. They are working very, rigorously to try and provide as much security as you can. As you know, schools are big places, big buildings, wide fields. There's a lot going on that Suffolk County has on their hands, but I know that they're jumping in with both feet in terms of supporting schools. We ourselves as a district are constantly looking at our security, constantly looking at our training, constantly looking at our hiring practices. We've recently begun a threat vulnerability assessment, which we talked about here, and the board authorized a month or two ago. That has begun recently with interviews with Wayne and his staff. And Wayne, if you could just maybe jump in for me and just talk a little bit about some of the training that we do. I know we're not going to tell everyone everything that we do, for obvious reasons. Our school safety plan, district safety plan is on the website for people to view and comment on. And there also is a resolution tonight, quite honestly, on around security guard training. And I don't want people to get the feeling that we don't train our staff, even though we're asking for more training. So maybe talk a little bit, if you don't mind, about some of the training we do.
What is mandated. Right?
Okay.
It's New York State mandated that all security guards and current security guards that work for us are all updated in security certifications. Everybody. There's nobody in our department currently that is working without a security license.
So all of our folks are certified, licensed,
That's
trained.
correct.
What does
Correct.
the training look like?
The training looks, it's covering numerous topics: lockdowns, lockouts, evacuations, de-escalation, verbal judo, and the list goes on. And I can get you a list as to what we're covering in our 8-hour refresher course, because it's mandated that once a year, each guard has to get 8-hour refresher course per year.
Okay.
And that's all we're up to date on that as well.
I understand they began the threat vulnerability assessment. I saw Mr. Pangano in your office today, I think, as a matter
I've
of
been
fact.
meeting on a daily basis with Joe, and we've been going over our whole entire security.
So he's going to speak with
assessment.
school officials, district officials, principals. Will parents, students a part of that as well?
Absolutely. And, I've been working hand in hand with Joe. Like this morning, we were at this 5th precinct. We were working with the officers over there and talking mostly about de-escalation situations. We were talking about live active shooting drills, which you're all, I'm sure, very aware of. Just about a month ago, right here with Patty and the upper administration, yourself, Chris, we hosted at Gate Lot Elementary School a live active shooting drill we worked on with the Suffolk County Police Department, with our emergency services from the entire county.
One of the difficulties we face as in being such a large district is that we are part of three different precincts, right? The 4th, the 5th, and the 6th.
Correct.
And there are different folks there, different leadership there, different ways to go about doing things in each one of those.
That's a point that we brought up this morning with the SRO over at the 5th precinct. Her name is Brittany Roach. She's just been appointed to position. So it's been difficult working with the SROs. I'm not going to beat around the bush. It's been hard for us because on a continuous basis, it seems like every once a year we get a new SRO. Keith Murphy, who's working over at the 6th precinct. We have a great relationship with Keith. He's been wonderful working with him hand in hand. The 4th precinct, they don't have one right now. They don't even have an SRO officer. So that's been difficult. They're looking to get one. But at this time, we're trying to work more and more with the police departments and having them assist us in doing our training drills with us so we can integrate ourselves with the police department.
And that's one of the things that the work group had discussed around trying to get us all on the same page. And one district security officers may wear a yellow shirt, and another district they're wearing a green shirt, another district they're wearing a black shirt. And what does that shirt mean compared to other shirts? And what are the different patrols and routines that take place in each district? So they're trying to tie that piece all together as well.
Yeah, it's something that we've been working on as well. We're trying to be more noticed at like football games, for instance. Instead of our guys just wearing Sachem black shirts, it's difficult at night, as we all know. But with our guys, we've been wearing the very, very bright yellow vests so that everybody can depict as to who is a security guard and who's not.
So one of the upgrades, so to speak, for this next year is all of our secondary students will wear their IDs. And I know security knows this, and
Correct.
and Mr. Trombetta, Patty, you talked with our folks. We have the lanyards, we have the IDs. We're going to make sure parents are reminded of that before school starts. But that's going to be an important piece for us so that we know, obviously, staff and students, everyone who belongs in our buildings. Only the people that belong in our building should be there, and visitors, of course, who sign in.
And it's something that we'll be working with, and I'll be working with Patty, and we'll be working with the principals. We want to be uniformed across the board. We don't want to have one building doing certain things and other buildings doing things different than the way the rest of the district is doing it. So we want to keep it uniform for everyone.
I don't know if there's any questions at this time. I'll say this, the last two pieces. During the threat vulnerability assessment, there will be drills that the reviewers will come and see. There may be announced and there may be unannounced. So parents need to be aware of that. We'll try to whittle it down to like within a week or so staff and parents know. But I don't want kids to be alarmed or frightened or anything like that. But the fact of the matter is we won't know when this is going to happen, when we'll need to be able to go into lockdown or lockout. So unfortunately, the times that we are in, we will have some anticipated drills.
The way to do it is unannounced.
Yeah.
To be honest with you.
Yeah.
That's the real effect of what you
So
do.
after we do those, I'd like for parents to know that today there was an unannounced drill in case a child comes home upset or concerned. And certainly we could talk about it afterwards. We could get on a loudspeaker and say that was an unannounced drill, but it would have to be after the fact so that we really get a true sense of how long it takes. What do we do? How do we move about and things like that?
Absolutely.
And the final piece for us will be a report that will come to us. There'll be a presentation done by the group, and that will probably be, we're looking at late fall, probably around November, somewhere around there. They're going to make sure that they do a full review of everything, including transportation, buildings, arrival, dismissal, and the like. So
Chris, maybe you could just, also just touch base on the panic button system that we're exploring right now.
of course,
And how we're testing it in different schools to make sure that it's
sure.
it's something that as a first offense, if there's an intruder or if there's somebody on the school grounds that doesn't belong there,
Okay.
that we get a quick response.
Yes.
Yeah.
So our schools do have panic buttons. I'm not going to get into who has them or where or anything like that, but know that we are able to do that. Also, we are working with the Rave app, which is it's been piloted at Seneca School. I know we did a drill there.
Mhm.
And certainly, as we have with all of our schools, there are areas where something may not go through with cell service, things like that. But what's important is that all of our staff will have them. And therefore, any single one that gets through is going to help our students and our staff in terms of connection to 911. So that is an app that, again, the Suffolk County DA's office is promoting as well, trying to get more schools to do. And we are amongst that wave of schools that will be adopting that this
And
year.
these panic buttons also go directly right to the police force.
Yep, it allows for communication between the police and us, camera access. Our police will have camera access to all our
Correct.
buildings at a moment's notice. They can have
Correct.
access to them through the police can through our cameras.
Correct.
Mr. Guerrero?
Wayne, I hate to put you on the spot, but are there any immediate needs for September that you feel that you need in your department?
Well, as I think we
I know that we're waiting for that
Yeah, no, I
report,
think
but
we can
between
all agree
September and
that,
November.
we could sit down more maybe and discuss more in closed sessions. And I'd probably like to discuss more with Chris and Patty as to really what our stronger needs are across the board for security. I think right off the bat, I think we're way above the curve. And I think everybody would agree to that. In speaking with Joe, with the True Assessment Agency, with our assessment, right now, technology-wise, we are just really way above where we need to be. All right. And everybody thinks, oh, well, you can never be way too above. Well, we are from where most schools are. We're way above the curve in that. But manpower, I'm going to be honest with you. That's really what it comes down to. As to where the needs are, that's for a further discussion.
So I'll jump in also. I know we added to that technology piece by purchasing iPads for our guards. I believe, Patty, is that at the elementary buildings or Wayne in terms of them being able to see the cameras at once when they are roving?
We have iPads at every elementary, every middle school, and at the high school, we have 2 at each high school as well. And Mr. Piccarello, in addition to that, Mr. Wilson and I are going to every building to meet individually with the principals to see their individual needs because they're not all the same. And we're also, Mr. Terragrasso will be joining us as well to discuss when students are out at recess, when we have games and practices, things that, usually we haven't really practiced for, to talk about the differences and what they need. So that I'm sure Mr. Wilson will have certainly some more individual things that we can purchase. I know walkie-talkies came up in a meeting the other day, and we're working on purchasing more of those for the buildings. They're in the process of telling me how many they need, and we're getting those as well to support the staff for recess, PE classes, lunch, monitors, things like that.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Question?
You said there was going to be a parental input part of the assessments. How would that be? What does that look like? Do you know? Is it going to be an online questionnaire or anything?
I'll let you
Yeah, I'm
take
going to
that,
work
Chris.
with Mr. Pagano on that in terms of bringing folks together so that he can have questions for parents. I don't know that it's necessarily an online piece to the entire community or if we're going to target people individually.
Questions? No? Just one thing that I just want to just mention. The resolution that we have on the agenda tonight, which we're going to be getting to, it is an action item, security training resolution. As of right now, I know that we do extensive training with our security guards, but in light of everything that's going on right now, of course, in the United States and schools with shootings and things like that, this board, along with, I think, Sable Board of Education, took a stance to really kind of promote and push the state to approve a certification specific to school security. And I know a lot of times when you have the security training, that security training is good for retail. It's good for, different industries, whether you're in a grocery store or whatever the case may be. But
I don't mean to interrupt you,
yeah.
but in reference to that, when we do our training,
Mhm.
everything is
You expand
completely
on it.
school related.
Yeah, so the thing is that even though we put a resolution in with New York State School Boards Association, something that I think this board is interested in doing is furthering that more advanced training, and as to what we can do to really kind of get ahead of things, so that, we could react, and like I said, and provide you with the tools that you need to
Absolutely.
be able to, make our schools the safest schools, on Long Island, if not the state.
Never against more training.
So,
You never get enough training.
any other questions from the board? Dwayne, thank you for coming out.
No, I appreciate it, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, Wayne.
Have a good night.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
night. Just want to continue a bit more. I want to give a little facilities update. We've done a lot of work around the district over this summer. And Michelle, do you mind jumping in, Ms. Sarakis, and giving us a little bit of a facilities update?
Sure. There's a lot going on around the district, as you can imagine. So just within the capital project, we're finishing up 3 roofing projects, one at Samoset, one at Waverly, and one at Merrimack. And then there have been bathroom renovations at several of our school buildings that we're reaching the final stages on. Also, the Buildings and Grounds Department, who have been extremely busy this summer. One of the really important things they did today was they moved district office back up into their permanent offices. So I know all of the ladies in the business office were thrilled, and we were able to do that because the roof over Samoset has now been 99% complete. The Board of Ed room work is ongoing. The new floors will be installed next Monday. High school north and east pools have been drained, scrubbed, and acid washed to get ready for the new school year. The maintenance department has been moving electrical outlets at our 2 high schools in preparation for the new smart boards that will be installed. I think it's the 15th and the 17th of this month. The new learning activity centers, we have those going in at 11 of our schools, all of the elementaries and Seneca. So Seneca, Merrimack, and Winona are assembled and ready. They're just waiting for the rubber flooring to be installed. Cayuga, the equipment is assembled. They're just waiting for the slab and then the rubber flooring to be installed. Hiawatha, the equipment is on site and needs to be assembled. Linwood and Chippewa, the equipment is scheduled to ship this week. And then the Tamarack, Waverly, and Nokomis equipment is scheduled to ship on the 19th. Outdoor learning areas, the site work is complete at Hiawatha, Nokomis, Tamarack, Winona, Cayuga, Merrimack, and Linwood. Grundy, the site work will begin on Monday. Waverly and Chippewa are being done last because Waverly has the roof construction going on right now, and Chippewa has the summer program going on. We are scheduling to have the architect, John Grillo, do a presentation at the September 7th meeting. He's going to provide an overview on the proposed energy performance contract. He's going to give a presentation on where we are right now, where he is with the initial planning, what the next steps would be if the board decides to go in that direction, and be there to provide what a proposed scope is and answer any questions. And that's it for now.
I understand as well. We're going to use Mr. Grillo's services around a capital improvement conversation, and then also around our turf conversation as well. With that committee's convening, Patty, in September.
Yes. Mr. Grillo is going to give me some dates that I can then have the committee meet us and do a walk around at Sachem North and Sachem East. And he is also drawing up some plans now prior to that. So when we do the walk, he'll have some information ahead of time for us. We met with him 2 days ago, and he's coming up with some drawings right now and different scenarios based on finances and the needs of different fields.
Yeah, I'd love to get that sooner rather than later, especially once that committee's, we know everyone that's going to be on it, get them those renderings, what those drawings will look like,
Absolutely.
and let people start to make some decisions as we move forward. As he spoke to me the other day, costs, as you could imagine, have gone up over the past year or so and continue to, unfortunately. And so he talked about perhaps a larger cost involved. In addition, there are some fields out back here, particularly the North Girls Softball, that has a big swath of it is part of other fields. Soccer and other fields are part of that. And if you turf that whole piece, then you need to turf the entire piece, not just the outfield. And so there might be some additional cost there as well. So we have to be cognizant of that. And we'll certainly share all that information with the board and as we make final decisions around that.
Chris, just to interject just for a second. I know that at a past meeting, I asked if this board should maybe take a look at hiring a land surveyor to the land to see if our fields are really in the proper locations. Are we best utilizing that property? Because there are some fields that may not be in the best locations. Has there been any discussion about that with Mr. Grillo? Paul?
We did talk with Mr. Grillo, not about hiring someone, but giving us different scenarios, specifically at East, if we kept the baseball field where it is, and in addition, moving it down. We did speak about what if we were to move it down on the lower fields, how it would impact the other teams and the other fields that are being used presently. So that is being played into it as well. We've asked him to look at just turfing the infield and the outfield, and then turfing the infield, outfield, and the additional field area that would need to be done to continue to use fields that we use for other sports.
Yeah, my biggest concern is that if we're going to be making a substantial investment, that we want to get it right. And a lot of what happened at East when it was built was not done right, and rather than repeating history, like I said, really, before we invest a considerable amount of money, taxpayer money, we want to make sure that, we don't find out that, we maybe we're better off utilizing a different section of the fields. So I don't want that to fall on the back burner. I'd like to really, I know there's a big push to get this done soon, but I'd like to really revisit that and give that a good look. And at the end of the day, if it comes back that, the fields in their current locations are the best scenario, then at least we did our due diligence, in doing that. But
I think
sorry.
Go ahead, Mike.
Just two points. I think what I'd like to see as a board is I'd like to see Mr. Grillo provide us some site plans, some optional site plans, maybe 3 or 4 options at how these things could be rearranged if they need to be arranged or how they exist today. And then once we decide on what the best site plan is, we could decide what the cost is going to be and how much of this turfing we're going to do, right? That would be, let's fix ourselves on what it's going to look like first, and then proceed from there, right? And number 2 is I do have a question for Michelle. What encompasses a learning activity center? It's not a playground. It's inside the building, or?
It's outside.
Oh, it's outside.
sorry, it's outside the building. It's not a playground. The students can play on them, but there is a learning aspect to them as
okay.
well.
All right.
Yeah, so Mr. Isernia, in the old days, yeah, we'd point over there. We'd say, "Well, let's go play on the playground." But nowadays, no, it's fine. But in terms of our using federal dollars, there needs to be a learning aspect to it. And Mrs. Hines did a lot of legwork on this, and we are installing learning activity centers. That's the term. Okay. I'll just say this. I think Mr. Grillo's expertise is one or such that he could look at. I think particular, Mr. Scavo, it's East Baseball that we're worried about, right? In terms of, is that in the right place? And should we move? So I believe that his expertise could lend itself to saying this should be here or it should be down here, or at least as Mr. Isernia said, give us options, as opposed to perhaps employing another person to come and then inform John's work, who will inform ours work. I think Mr. Grillo can do that.
Yeah, the biggest concern I have with that is, and look, there's people in this room whose kids have played baseball, including my own son, and that field is a tough field to watch, and it's a tough field to, during the spring seasons, during the fall training, it gets very, very cold up there, and it sometimes is a hindrance for the kids. But on top of that, foul balls, pose a safety hazard. I mean, you have people walking in park lots dodging balls. You have cars constantly getting hit, windows constantly being broken. So the question is whether or not it was put in the right location to begin with. When we have a lot of acreage down below. But I want to give some other board members an opportunity to talk. I know Alex had his hand up, and then Ms. Isernia will come back to you.
I just had a quick question about the Learning Activity Center as well. Just for the community's clarification, why did we only do it at Seneca and not Sagamore and Samoset, just in case they ask?
Thank you. Great question. Seneca has our pre-K students. How many sections are there? 6, 5?
They have 5 sections.
They have
this upcoming
5
year.
classrooms of pre-K, an entire wing. We put little bathrooms in for them. It's the school loves having them there. Last year, the little ones came up and trick-or-treated with the big older, in the older class. Really sweet, really nice. It's a great program. And so we put a learning activity center there for those little ones to learn on and play on and enjoy.
Just so the parents from those other two schools
Great,
don't get
yes,
upset
right.
that
Where's
they're not.
ours?
Yeah,
Exactly.
I just want to make
Great
sure.
question.
I'm going back to the fields part. So I haven't looked at East's layout, but I've been told there's been issues with kids in the grass, on the grass fields, and a lot of ticks, and being told by the coaches not to go too close to the woods because you're going to get filled with ticks, and then go home and make sure you check yourself. So are those fields that are behind kind of the football field, are those near the baseball fields? Like, would that get looked at as well?
But that is something certainly we could look at. I even talked about that with Mr. O'Keefe, who's in the audience here tonight, in terms of a multi-purpose field or something like that, turfing it. It could help reduce some of the tick issues. As you know, Suffolk County, and the whole line, ticks out of control. I think more so even last year than this year. And we do treat it, by the way. We don't just let them run rampant. And the coaches are aware of it. And we tell our kids all the time, make sure you check yourselves and things like that. And there were times, not this past year, the year prior, we even shut down the field. We didn't even let kids out there because we were concerned about it. But it is a useful spot, a space, and it is something that we could, what I've asked for is like this overarching, wow, this should be great, incredible plan, and then a little one that's a little more, okay, yeah.
Well, I would propose that we're going to add to Mr. Grillo's scope that he provide these site plans as options to us. But we're just talking east, right? This is just the east conversation.
Quite honestly, North again does have some questions in terms of that girls softball field and how far out do we do just the infield, or do we do the outfield? And if we do the outfield, there's a cement border that goes there and fencing. It would prevent us from using that field for other sports. That's a problem. So we need to look at that. We may have to turf that entire area to get the best use of that entire area. And of course, that impacts the cost.
But we're not discussing rearranging North.
No, there's no discussion in terms of the question of flipping fields or anything like that.
The question of utilization really is an east question.
Yes, sir.
So that, 3 or 4 different site plans with different options and with their
I've
pros
actually
and cons, I think would be the best thing for us to decide.
He's working on one with bleachers on both sides, moving some of those Project Adventure things out of the way, so the garbage isn't there, so it's much nicer looking. You'd be able to see from both sides. Right now, there are real viewing issues and concerns there, new dugouts and the like as well.
Vinny?
As part of the plans, could we look at putting restrooms out by the fields? This way, we're not opening up the buildings perhaps, or at least we have options to bring a restroom down to at the field level for spectators. So just something to think about if we're doing the construction, right? So.
And just one last thing, Michelle, you had mentioned energy performance contract. We have a lot of new board members that weren't here for the last two that we've done. Maybe you just can kind of talk about how they work real quick, as far as how they're funded, how we get money back, the guaranteed savings,
Sure. So an energy performance contract is, you have to develop projects that have an 18-year payback. Otherwise, the New York State won't approve the project. So you can have some, as I put into the Friday packet last week, you have an item like boilers that have a long payback period. That's not going to meet the criteria for New York State. But then you couple that with something like LED lights and solar that has a quicker payback period, and they offset each other, and then you get within that 18-year. There is no cost to the taxpayer because the project has to fund itself. So it has to generate savings that will cover the bonds that need to be issued to pay for this project. You don't issue a bond until the project is ready. When you work with it, they're called ESCOs. Really, all of the liability falls on that ESCO until the project is up and running and generating that first year savings. That's when the financing now falls on the district. Most of these energy performance contracts, they don't just break even, but they tend to be cash positive for a district. And then that just will be extra revenue. As you say, you go to your LED lights, your electric bill, maybe, 3 of your buildings now currently are basically off the grid. They're paying for themselves and things like that. The ESCOs do guarantee a savings to the district. And if that savings is not recognized, that's out of pocket money from that ESCO. They literally, if they tell you you're going to save $500,000 in the first year and you save $450,000 in the first year, they're writing you a check. They're writing the district that check. And there are measurement periods. They come in each year, and there's different levels of measurement that they could do. It's called an A, B, and C plan, and most districts go with a B plan where they're not coming in and going through every one of your utility bills. But during the planning phase, you do agree upon how that measurement is going to be done during each of the years of the project. And then they come in and they check, that you're meeting these savings. And if you're not, they make up the difference. And then if you're cash positive, that's great for the district. It does not have to be voted on by your community. So whereas Sachem will have a 76% building aid ratio, for an energy performance contract, you receive 10% less. So that project would be funded at 66% building aid. And that no cost is a combination of the building aid that you're going to receive and the savings that you're going to recognize from that project.
So I'm going to presume then that most of our buildings still have magnetic ballasts and fluorescent lamps, right? And that's how most of the savings is going to come from going to LED. That's where it's going to come
lights.
from.
Yes.
So that's how we can tie in the boilers and the other things, right?
Correct.
That's the plan.
Correct. And they're also proposing solar. I know there was solar on some of the buildings, but one of the options could be, I know they have this in my home district, is the solar carports. You certainly have the property for that, to put up those carports on some of your buildings, at some of your buildings, and those would generate.
What would we use the solar for? Hot water and any idea? Or?
Well, it would be the electric in the building.
Well, we're not going to have batteries though, right? We're not going to use battery storage. In the building, right?
They're not storing it, no.
Stephanie?
So the money back, if you don't meet the savings, is from the state?
No, is from the ESCO, is from the company that's actually doing the project.
Gotcha.
So correct me if I'm wrong, it's guaranteed.
Yes,
So
it's
if you
guaranteed.
fall short of that, you end up, I guess, I don't know if the insurance company picks up the difference, or somebody picks up the difference. The
That
ESCO.
company, whether they're
Yeah.
bonded for it, I'm not quite sure
Okay.
of that.
I didn't
but
know if it came from the state or the
No.
company. I didn't.
Comes from the company.
Thanks.
So, great. Any other questions? Any other updates?
One last one. Thank you. Actually, two. I do this to you all the time. Two quick ones, but last meeting we talked a bit about a director of guidance position and some of our counselors. It was raised astutely by one of our board members that, hey, why don't we really take a look at lowering our caseloads for our counselors? And so I would certainly be in agreement. I think we all would like to see us do that. It's obviously a struggle when you look at all the things that are competing for our resources and our dollars. But certainly when you see our goals, and we'll talk about our goals at our August 24th retreat, one of the goals will be budgetarily to try and bring down some of those caseloads for our counselors, not only at the high schools and the middle schools, but also at the elementary level. So I just wanted to bring that up for folks and just let the public know as well here and at home that August 24th is a tentative meeting. We still may not have, we probably will have a public section, but it would only be for hiring and things along those lines, not a full-on meeting with presentations or anything like that. But we'll keep people updated. That's the August 24th meeting. It'll be tentative. That's it. Thank you very much.
Okay. You said you had one more now.
Those were the two.
Oh, two, okay, okay.
Thank
you. Okay, so it brings us to item F, approval of minutes on page 2. I need a motion, please. Mr. Grillo, second. Okay, Ms. Cernia, questions, concerns, all in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Brings us visitors. Any else? No? All right, action items. Item 3 is the security training resolution. This is the same resolution that we revised to be able to submit to New York State School Boards Association to get the ball rolling on enhanced and advanced school security training. Any motion, please? All right, Mr. Reynolds, second by Ms. Volpe. Okay, any questions, concerns? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried.
Hey, Rob, can I just make one comment?
Sure,
I just
absolutely.
wanted to just take an opportunity to thank our former colleague, Jim Kiernan, for really driving this discussion point with us. So I think Jim's done a lot of work to bring this to the forefront with Sable. So I'm happy and proud that that Jim was part of SAGEM and bringing this to the forefront. So I just wanted to publicly recognize Jim.
Absolutely, thank you. Okay, item 4, business items. We have consent agenda A and B. Any motion? Any motion, please? Oh, where are we at?
Scope annual dinner.
Oh, Jesus. All right. All right, so we're going to go back. Item B is scope annual meeting attendance to attend the dinner on, I guess, August 10th. A motion, please? Okay. Sabrina? Okay, second. I'm sorry, I can't see my reading glasses. Matthew Bauman, any questions, concerns? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Okay, item 4, business items, consent agenda A through B. Any motion, please? Okay. Well, Laura Slattery, second. Ms. Cernia. Questions, discussion? Okay. All in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Item 5, personnel. For teachers, we have a consent agenda A through U. It's going to take us to all the way through page, I believe it's 14 or 15. Okay, I need a motion, please. All right, Ms. Cernia. I second. Mr. Reynolds, questions or concerns? All right, all in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Okay, brings us to page 15.
Mr. Scavo,
Yeah,
we'd just like to take a moment to recognize one of our teacher assistants who is retiring in a few short weeks. Although unusual, sometimes at the end of the school, before the start of a school year, end of the summer, we do have folks who make some of those decisions that they're looking to kind of move on and kind of go from there. So we're happy to report that Christine Gunzel, a valued teacher assistant in our district, has decided to enjoy her time retiring and thank her for all her years of service.
Okay, thank you. Okay, item 6 is personnel. For support staff, we have consent agenda A through I. That will bring us to page 18. Any motion, please? All right, Ms. Slattery, second. Okay, Mr. Picarillo, questions or concerns? All in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried.
Also, Mr. Scavo, in the non-instructional area, we did have some of our other folks who are valued employees of our district who are retiring. We do have a bus driver, Victor Rondinella in transportation, who is retiring, Jim McLean in groundskeeper in facilities, who's been instrumental in making sure that all the great things that need to happen for health and safety for our buildings and students and athletics are up to snuff. We have Mr. Shellhouse, a custodian over at Cayuga Elementary School, who has joined us for many years in many buildings, and we wish him all the best. And Janet Tedeschi, who is also a school communication here, who's a valued member of our IT department. Thank you.
Okay, item 7 is we have consent agenda for personnel for administrators. It's going to be through A through D. Any motion, please? Okay, Ms. Pickwood, second. Okay, Mr. Baumann, any questions or discussion?
Rob?
Yep,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
okay. Ms. Picarella?
I brought this up last meeting or the meeting before, and I'm sticking to my gun on it. And this has nothing to do with Dr. Miller, and I couldn't be happier as a Sachem alum and that we're promoting from within, and it's everything that we want. I just have a philosophical difference with the position itself. I know that our goal is going to be to lessen the caseload for guidance in the future, and I agree with that goal. But to me, that sounds like we're going to put somebody in a director position when we already have chairs, and then we're going to hire counselors later to lessen the caseload. And I just think that, financially, watching out for taxpayer money, if we're just going to add and add and add, I just don't know if that's the right path to go. We don't have a director of math. We don't have a director of social studies. We don't have a director of English. We have chairs. And I think those chairs are more than capable of, whatever message that we're sending down, spreading that message to the staff. And I know that they're not in a supervisory role, but I think that we're hiring professionals. They go through a pretty rigorous screening to get to where they are. So again, I couldn't be happier for Dr. Miller. This no is not for him. It's more just for the position, and I'm going to vote yes for him.
Okay.
But I just want to make that clear and on the record that I have to vote my conscience and I have to vote the way I believe. And if we're going to be adding staff, it's just, I don't know why we have directors for some and not for others. So that's just where I am.
All right. All right. Do you want to?
Thank you so much. I appreciate those comments. And so this position, it sounds as though, Mr. Piccarello, that we're adding a director of guidance, but we've had that position all along. That position is different from the chairs insofar as, and you mentioned it, yes, it's supervisory. The chairs are not supervisory. We do have chairs in science and social studies, those other areas, but we do have a director. We have 2 folks working in our curriculum office, along with the assistant superintendent for curriculum, Ms. Hines. So we're not just adding to administration or adding staff. I think we're staying at that same level. I do want to add counselors, as I mentioned last time, elementary in particular, but also middle and high, and bring down some of those numbers. You raised a great point. I looked at several districts around us. Yes, or lower, some are higher, or some at the same point in terms of the caseloads. But I do think it's an important supervisory position. It's not a brand new one. It's one that keeps us at a level where we were. And I think I actually expect more as we go forward. Dr. Miller has a great expertise in terms of scheduling, master scheduling. I want him working with our staff at all our buildings to make sure that when I graduate from East, my piece of paper that says diploma does the same thing for me, that piece of paper at North that says a diploma, that we're getting the same message across, the same programming across, and those are the types of things that we're going to ask him to do. So I think it is certainly different than our chairs. I think it's necessary, certainly respect and appreciate the comment.
Rob, just quickly, I just want to drive home too that, Dr. Pelletier and I have disagreed on a couple topics, and then we get back to work and we can move on to the next thing. It's not like a grudge thing, and then I'm going to vote no on everything moving forward. I think that this is his opinion, and just to make it clear on the record, this is mine, and I'm going to move on to the next thing.
Absolutely, sure. Okay, so A through D, and then we're going to do E separately. Yes. All right, so I have a motion and a second. Okay, any other questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, one opposition. Alex Piccarello. Okay, motion's carried. Okay, item E. Congratulations.
Dr. Miller, thank you for coming tonight. I'll see you bright and early tomorrow morning. We got a lot of work to do. And I know you just got your doctorate at St. John's. Congratulations. Outstanding. Thank you very much.
Item E is another appointment of administrative personnel for the 2022 school year, and that would be the appointment of Deputy Superintendent. I need a motion, please. Okay, Ms. Piccarello, second by Mr. Reynolds. Okay, questions, discussion? No questions? Oh, good. All right, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion's carried. Congratulations.
Patty's already here bright and early, so I don't have to worry about inviting her. Kevin's new to the team, but Patty, looking forward to our time. Spent a lot of time already for these past 2 years, learned Miss Trombetta, the way she operates. When I see Patty, I've said this many times, I see Sachem. So really proud of her and what she's accomplished in her career. Elementary principal, middle school principal, high school principal, district office personnel, just really climbed that ladder of success. A real role model, raised her family here. Her kids are great scholar athletes, fine young ladies, and Patty is as well. I could go on and on, obviously. So, Patty, thank you for taking this on, and very proud of this team. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so it brings us to item 8, okay, on page 20. Contracts, we have consent agenda A through J. Any motion, please? Okay, Ms. Slattery, second by Ms. Isernia. Questions or discussions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion's carried. Item 9, Committee on Special Education. We have consent agenda A through B. Any motion, please? Okay, Ms. Picarillo, second by Ms. Volpe. Questions or discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion's carried. Brings to item 10, monthly reports. Our board committees have started yet, so I can't imagine that we are the monthly reports, but something that we're going to be discussing as a board discussion is going to be setting criteria for the committees. Unless anybody has anything they want to add to the monthly reports. Steph? Yeah, we are. It's coming up. Yeah. Okay. Item 11, on closing, public comment. Anything, Allison? No? Item B on item 11 is formation of board committees. This is a discussion that we did have last year. It's one that's warranted every year. This year, we had a considerable amount of applications that were submitted to us. I think between community members and staff, it was over 100 applications for different committees. Yeah. We asked this time around people to put their first, second, and third choice as to what they'd like to, be selected for. But in the years past, what our concern was that, we had to look at a couple different things. Length of the term is 1 year. The number of committees an individual committee member could sit on would be another, board decision. A number of people on a committee would be another decision. So before we go ahead, and we're not going to select those individuals tonight, but definitely by the next meeting, okay, for September appointment, so those committees can get up and running. Let's set the criteria, and then what we'll do is we'll look at the applications in detail and actually, put people in positions where their expertise is. I think that would be the best way to do it. So we could open up the conversation. Hi, Ms. Volpe. Ed.
Okay, so I looked over some of the applicants, and their expertise is unbelievable. Like, I haven't seen, obviously, previously, but the people that are stepping up to help, we should welcome with open arms. So, in my opinion, we shouldn't limit. And if someone wants to come help us do great things at Sachem, I think they should. But I was so impressed with the applicants. I mean, really impressed. And I don't know if previously we had people like this apply, but over 100, and every single one, I was like, oh, wow. Oh, wow. I'm very impressed.
Okay. Mr. Picarillo?
I just, we had a reopening committee 2 years ago, whenever that was, when we got back from COVID. And one of the complaints that we got from the community is that they felt like it was unproductive. They felt like they weren't being heard. They felt like the group was too big. And I don't want that. I don't want to say no to anybody, but I also don't want the committees to get so large where people are feeling like the input that they have is not being heard because there's just too many people talking, or they ran out of time, or the meetings are going 3-4 hours and they can't stay. So that's just a concern of mine, that we've had that big committee and people left there angry. We got messages. People were upset that they just weren't being heard, or questions weren't being answered, or their input. So that's the concern that I have.
Can I ask Alex something? Just like, how many were on it?
There was, I think it was like 25,
Well,
30.
I could tell you that the board selected.
I forget how size it is.
The board of 9 selected 2 people from each person. So we had 18 board representatives, and then administration. Erin added a couple. Did she add a couple? So there was probably somewhere around 27, 28 people on the committee. Yeah. I'm sorry, Laura?
So just in my experience, I've been on board committees for 15 to 20 years, different ones at different times as a community member, now as a board liaison. In all my experience, even on facilities committee, which was a very large committee, Vinny was on it with me. We broke into groups and worked effectively that way. Normally, the first meeting, we may have everybody show up. By the time the last meeting comes, there may be 5 of us left. So again, I believe that any community member that wants to be involved should be involved. I mean, I think being on a committee, our last meeting, the emails that we got where parents want to be involved, they want transparency, they want to be involved in the process. Now we're going to limit who can be on a committee to be involved in the process. I have never, in all, Rob, unless you can correct me, I don't remember there ever being anybody that was told no to be on a board committee in the past, or at least I never was. On facilities, I know it had to be limited, but there were 25 of us, I think, or maybe even 30, but it was broken into groups. Everybody had, as long as it's run correctly, everybody had input. Vinny knows, putting together the legislative form, we definitely could have used more people. Definitely, and we didn't start soon enough. And this year, we want our legislative committee to be even more involved. So to limit the number on the legislative committee, I don't think is a good idea. But that's just my opinion.
Okay. Comments? Mr. Cerny?
Well, I guess a couple of things we got to make a decision first is, are we going to allow people to be on more than one committee, right? That's
Well,
number
it's all the things that I have written down, yeah.
Because then if we are going to have a certain number of people, whether it's 9 or 11 or whatever it's going to be, or unlimited, if there's less than that who chose that committee as their priority one, barring somebody having an individual issue with an individual, for instance, I think there's only 6 people who put priority one as the audit committee, right? So unless somebody had an issue with any one of those individuals, you would put all 6 of them on that committee. That's their priority choice number 1, right? And then you'd have to sort back to who's priority number 2. And so there's a little bit of analysis we got to do, but we need to answer the question of, are we going to allow people to be on more than one, like you said?
Mm-hmm.
Are we going to have a certain number of members on a committee? So I agree that they can get to a size where they're too big. Now, maybe 9 wasn't the right number last year. Maybe it has to be an odd number. I would say 11, right? I don't know, because when you count on the board members, right, there's usually 2 or 3 board members, and then there's usually an administration person. I mean, you could be at 20 very rapidly, and I think that's probably unmanageable for both the administration and for the board members. So I guess we need to come to that conclusion first. What are we going to do in terms of size?
Mm-hmm. Okay, Ms. Piccarello?
I just wanted to make a quick comment about, Laura said something about transparency. I think this board and the district, for that matter, are more transparent now than ever. We live stream meetings. John goes through, it was John, now it's going to be Michelle, goes through the budget, breaks it down for the community. Everything is wide open in the public. I don't think that limiting the committees is about closing and closing transparency. I think it's just about, do we philosophically believe that a smaller group, 11 instead of 30 or 12 instead of 30, will be more productive working together? I mean, I've heard, I know that you said that in all your experience that, it wasn't bad, but I've heard horror stories from that school closure committee. I've heard of arguments and, screaming and yelling and productivity. I've heard bad things that happen from the large
Yeah, there was one person.
I'm just saying, but one person can ruin, I've watched budget meetings where one person ruined the entire night that night.
Right.
And so, if I'm not saying that we limit it, but I just don't want to compare limiting it to not being transparent. I think that I would challenge anybody to say where we aren't transparent and bring forward proof of that.
Okay, I think maybe I used a wrong term. So instead of transparent, maybe the community wants to be more involved, wants to be more a part of the process. So limiting, or just us picking who we want to be part of the process, I think that can lend itself to we're excluding certain people. And so maybe transparent wasn't the right word.
All right, Vinny, and then I'll come back to Stephanie.
Just, should we start should we look at each committee and say, what's the charge we're giving them, and then align people to that, right? Legislative, yeah, I could see there's a lot of things we want to accomplish. Do we break it up into work streams and more people might be better? I don't know. Just looking at the applicants, I think curriculum and diversity, there's a lot of people on that, right? So that one, I would defer to the administration to say, what number on curriculum are you looking for? Because that's a mix of parents and students and things like that. So do we look at each committee and then pick a number to say what might be appropriate based on the charge we're giving the committee? Just something to think about, right, as we kind of go through this. So
I'm going to go to Stephanie and then I'll come back to Sabrina.
Mine's quick. Do we have a number of how many people applied for each one?
Yes.
I'm doing quick math.
Yeah, I have it
Could
here.
be way wrong.
Not to cut you off. The problem that we have, okay, is that, I can give you the numbers. It's 16 applicants for the audit committee, 23 applicants for the legislative committee, 36 applicants for the diversity committee, 16 applicants for the budget, and 40 applicants for curriculum council. But where it gets a little bit muddy is that normally what we look for is 9 community members to participate on the committees. These numbers also represent staff that also applied. So we don't normally get applications from staff members here. Right off the bat, I mean, the curriculum council, we have several staff members. Erin, is she back? We have several staff members on the curriculum
How
council.
many was curriculum?
40. Okay. And
So
then
typically we send out our own applications through district. This year, because again, it was official committee, Allison sent it out, Ms.
Mhm.
Florio. And we did get quite a few. My only apprehension is that it's the summertime and I know more people want to join.
Mhm.
And then we're also sending out an email to all of our students on their Google emails because we want to make sure that they're on there. And the same thing for our diversity committee as well.
Yeah. So even with the diversity committee, it says 36 applicants applied, but 20 of them might be staff members and teachers, and there might only be, 16 or 12 community members that really applied for it. So when you look at these numbers, I think almost we need to sort that out and say, all right, listen, which ones are community members, which ones are staff members, and then go from there, And I think what happens is that lowers the number of, right off the bat, because those staff members are going to be on those committees anyway. And then I was kind of diverted to, Dr. Pelletier as to who should serve in those committees based upon their expertise, when it comes to staff. The board doesn't usually select those people. It's normally done by administration. Is that correct? So these numbers, when I say there was over
I'm sorry, I was just
100,
going to say, one more
it
thing.
actually encompasses everybody, it's staff and community.
I was just going to say, I think our school closure and our reopening committees, those were unprecedented committees because we just didn't really know what we were walking into.
Mhm.
So at the time, the board really wanted to have as many voices as possible on there. But of course, that led to a whole lot of voices in there.
Mhm.
I think our committees that we have that are standing now, we can have a more organized approach to it. But something like curriculum council and diversity probably should have a bigger population versus, legislative or audit or,
Mhm.
but I think though that those two committees are probably not the ones that we should be looking at in terms of what the general ones, because those were sort of like unprecedented. You don't always close the school. You don't always reopen a school district after COVID.
Or? I'm
So,
sorry, Sabrina.
sorry,
I'm sorry, Sabrina.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
So just regarding curriculum council, so the first year we had curriculum council, there was a lot of staff, and then parents who actually weren't on curriculum council would just come in the back and listen to the presentations. So when the number got limited, the feedback I was hearing, I don't know if you heard this too, Erin, was only certain people were picked that agreed with the curriculum changes, or only certain staff were invited, or only certain parents were picked, that were in certain schools that didn't have problems that other schools were in. So when it came to curriculum council, they felt if you didn't get a spread of all staff from all different buildings, along with parents who middle school, high school, somebody from Winona might have a different experience than somebody from Tamarack. So by just limiting it to 1 or 2 or 3 schools and choosing staff and parents just from those buildings, the feedback wasn't across the board as to what everybody, a lot of the complaints that we hear is that our schools aren't consistent. So if we don't bring in parents and staff from the different schools, how do we know what's going on. We're hearing only from one set of eyes. So how Erin does the committee, we break into groups, we work together. I didn't think a larger number was a problem or we have ever had an issue there. That's why maybe looking at each committee is a better idea than just setting only 9 across the board for everybody.
So I sat down the other day and I started to kind of look at the data and just focus on everybody's first choice. And I took out teachers, administrators, and people that did put in through that form. And it broke down to very little wanting audit. What are those three? Legislative and budget advisory. The majority then went to Diversity Curriculum Council. I looked at the number 13, which is a lucky number for me, that if we looked at 13, there was only very few curriculum and diversity that went over that, 13. So if you really look at everybody's first choice, we don't have 20 people who put whatever that first committee, audit committee, they didn't put audit first choice. It's just 20 people somewhere put 1, 2, 3, 4 on their list for that. So I'm thinking maybe if we could just focus on looking at everybody's first and second choice and trying formulating the committees that way. And Rob and I were just saying also, people are welcome to come to those committees, even if we do limit the number, we haven't decided that yet, that people are welcome to come to the meetings, and then speak to us, send us emails after if they have any questions, concerns. And I know even throughout the year, then I know a curriculum council, we have opened it up to a parent who did have concerns and said, why don't you come to curriculum council? And they were fine with that. And they came, they saw, they heard, there wasn't an issue. So, I mean, I would like to maybe first look at everybody's first and second choices and try to get as many people on a committee that way. And I think we could do that if we focus on that. So that's just, if we look at that data and really break it down, we haven't done that. Did you do that, Stephanie? That it wasn't that far off, and it wasn't where we're going to have 40 people on a committee. But I do agree. I mean, being PTA, being an educator, being on many committees throughout my career, I tend to like the smaller committee. I mean, it gets more personal. You could get more done, get accomplished. But I also like, Vincent's ideas of, where legislative, where you might have 3 different charges from the board that you could break people up into 3 committees of 10. And go from there. Not that there were that many people who put in for legislative, but something along that line where you are going to be focusing on, task A, task B, task C.
Okay, I'm going to go back to Stephanie, and then I want to seek Dr. Pellettieri's input as well.
All right, rough math, because I did it just going through this paper. I'm not going to say the actual numbers because I don't want to be held to that, in case I'm wrong, because there's a high chance with my math. Audit legislative budget had less than 10. Diversity and curriculum had a little over 20, if not a little less than 20 in either way. I worry in a district this big, limiting curriculum and diversity because we're a district this big. And specifically diversity, we have so many diversity issues in Sachem, whether it's our LGBTQ, if it's special needs, if it's people of different races, where we need to have everybody's voice represented. So 20-ish on diversity is not a lot for a district.
Are you suggesting 20 community members?
No, I don't know. I don't know if there's teachers and community members in the list I have. I'm
Yeah.
saying
Yeah,
first
it's both.
choice.
Yeah.
This was
That's
first
why it's
choice.
actually below 20 if you take out.
Right,
teachers.
right.
Yeah.
So in Sachem, this is really not a lot of people. Even in PTA realm, we've had, people that want to be on a 5th grade committee.
Yeah.
That one goes up to a good 20 people, with parents, grandparents, aunts and uncles, all becoming PTA members. But, I don't really think the numbers are that scary. I'm encouraged by them. So especially in the diversity, there's a lot of work to do in diversity.
Yeah.
So why not have every voice represented?
Good, Sabrina.
Those 2 committees too, though, also have staff, admin, and students.
Right.
So when you have 20 community members, 10 to 15 students, 10 to 15, staff and admin, and I was on diversity the first year. I was on curriculum council last year, and I did feel like it was at some points too many cooks in the kitchen. And I know a lot of times there were kids who wanted to speak, but there were other people who kind of started to take the stage. I guess it's about the formation, how it's being run. But I do know that, you can end up having that committee being up 30, 40 people, once you add students and staff on it. Also, I think those are the two committees that numbers wise is really, questionable.
Alex, you had a comment?
Yeah, have we had a discussion about the charge of the board for each of these committees yet? We haven't had that discussion. Okay, I just want to make sure I haven't, because I know that Stephanie had just mentioned that they have a lot of work to do, but I don't know what, we haven't set what
We haven't
work
set
they're
charges
going to be
yet.
working on. Okay.
Yeah, so I just want to weigh in, and then I'll ask Dr. Pelletier to weigh in as well. Look, I've been around for a long time. I think this, when you go back to 2016, it's like, I don't know, it's 16 years or whatever it is. I've been on committees when these committees actually started. We actually formed, these committees, and we actually used to have a capital projects committee where it was a makeup of, and Mike, you probably remember this, makeup of contractors. Mike, you were on it as an engineer. And my experience, even with budget advisory committee, up to last year, I was on that committee every year that I was on the school board, is that when there's a lot of people, with a lot of different opinions, a lot less gets done, and I've seen hostility break out. I've seen people argue across the table, to the points where they become very, very difficult to manage. And we're asking our staff, we're asking our new business official, to facilitate a committee. We're asking, Ms. Hines to facilitate a committee. And I think it's fair, it would only be fair to make the committee a manageable size so that they don't grow to an out of control number. I agree, you don't want to limit, but at the same time, you don't want to create a committee that's so large that nothing's getting done. And that's my concern with the whole thing. What I'd like to do is get Dr. Pelletier's opinion. I'd like to set the terms tonight. This way we could start moving forward. And then if we need to tweak things here and there, we can. But I think something that would also create some spaces is that in years past, we had a very, very specific rule similar to the Board of Education that if a committee member missed more than 3 events, 3 meetings in a row without good reason, we removed them. We actually took them off, and that person that was waiting, that position was put on. So if we were capped or we were maxed out, that person would be able to go back on. But one thing to remember too, to Sabrina's point, is that people could, I think with the exception of the diversity task force, people could attend these meetings, okay, and sit in the back room and take notes and then email the board and say, look, I'm not on the committee, but I think this would be a valid idea. I think something the board should consider. I don't really have a voice on the committee, but I just want to share my observations with you. Committee members have the opportunity to do that, and be able to, to present back to us. And I think a lot of times people come as visitors, and then as soon as an opportunity jumps, or comes about, next thing you know, they're on that committee, So these are all things that we should consider. But, I want to just get Dr. Pelletier's opinion as to his thoughts on the size. We know they're going to be 1-year terms, size of committee, number of committees, a person should sit on, in order to form these committees to the best of their ability.
Mr. Scott, well, thank you very much. And as I said last year, and I'll say again, this year, these are certainly board committees, not superintendent committees, so I support the board in any of their decisions. I would go back to Stephanie's comment in terms of really being encouraged by so many people wanting to be on the committees, and I do appreciate that, but I'll then go back over to Sabrina and Rob's comments and a few others in terms of just size, just being unwieldy. I've run curriculum committee meetings throughout my career, and it gets to a point where it's difficult to get work done when you're trying to hear from someone from all 15 buildings, for example, and things such as that. And diversity I worry about as well. We have kids that are brave enough to come out and join these committees and talk about their experience and their concerns. That's one reason why we don't let the open audience come to those conversations, because kids are nervous about who's here, who's hearing this, and we create a nice comfort zone for them, and we don't want different people coming at different times for different events, and that can get unwieldy as well. I think in the past we've, Ms. Hines, correct me if I'm wrong, 3 parents or 5 parents on diversity. And so if we want to raise that number, certainly we should do that. But those 2 in particular, curriculum and diversity, yes, maybe raise the numbers from where they were last year if we felt we could do that. And some of the other ones sounds like doing the first or second choice, just kind of it'll work itself out. We don't have to worry about that. Those would be my comments.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, in my original last year proposal, I did make sure that we mentioned that the committee should appoint a chairperson maybe a vice chairperson, and
Mhm.
also a secretary. And they
Mhm.
should be taking minutes of their meetings, as detailed as possible. And those things should be posted up for the community to see. And maybe we want to establish a email address for each committee, like budget advisory at sachem.com and or legislative at sachem, so people could who come to the meetings. I don't know if are they allowed to have a public comment section? No, right?
It's not required and probably not recommended.
No, okay. But at least they could email either based on attending the meeting or reading the minutes of the meeting, so we could be that much more transparent. I do agree that I think we need the administration to guide us with regard to staff members who have applied and the number of students who have applied for those committees that they would be on. But I still think that we need to think about fixing a number for budget advisory, legislative, just because again the concerns that Dr. Pelletier mentioned, the wieldiness. So I'd be for that.
Okay. So Stephanie?
A lot of questions. Are we intending on meeting in person for these now?
Yes.
Because
yeah.
one of the issues we had is that people couldn't attend because it was all online. It was all through Zoom and we weren't streaming them.
We weren't streaming them, but I know at least with the Budget Advisory Committee, we allowed people to actually come in as spectators.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
they're not subject to the open meetings law
They're not.
committees, right? But
Yeah.
it's just
And
however
then we
wanna do
did
it.
create an email for legislative last year because of the forum. If we're intending on doing a forum,
Mhm.
we need to make sure that we factor in the help.
Sure.
Because we didn't have enough people last year and the forum pulled off great. It was awesome, but it could have been even better if we had more people involved.
Yeah, something to share. I'll let Alex speak in a minute. Is that I noticed that our very own Dana Playton actually applied for the Legislative Committee, and she ran that committee along with Sal Nicosia and Sal Trippi. They were like a 3-person team. Her applying for the Legislative Committee and getting that experience back is tremendous. It's tremendous, and I think that would be a tremendous asset to that committee. Alex?
This might be an Allison and Jack question, so I apologize for putting you guys on the spot, but on the website, if it's okay with the board, can we put a tab under Board of Education to put board committees?
It's
We can
already
list,
there.
we can list members, we can maybe make a separate email, we can,
Yeah,
we
have
can
it
put
up
a
there.
spot for minutes so that stuff is up there?
Yes, some
and-
of the past minutes from like years are already up there.
Okay.
Each committee does have a tab.
So we can make,
And yeah, the sitting trustees that are on each committee are listed up there. And then once we pick who is actually going to sit as members, we normally put them on there as well.
and they would send you the minutes and then you'd put them up there for everybody? Awesome.
Sure.
Thank you.
So right now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 committees. I know on the monthly reports, policy committee doesn't usually have committee members. So policy committee is really between the attorneys and the board to actually revise policy. To update them. It's so we're actually I guess we're able to update those policies so that we're thorough and up to date. But the concept comes down to terms are definitely going to be 1-year terms. People have to reapply every year. Everybody's okay with that? All right. We don't make 2-year terms. Okay. Number of people on committee. This year we had 9. Based upon the number of people, I would be okay raising it. I'm hearing the number 11. Okay. Does anybody have anything that they want to, change? I agree. We should probably do it in 2s in case they have to take a leading, on a presentation or, details of presentation. But
Rob, just quickly, that number 11 is for community members.
community members,
That's not
and that
counting
would be
teachers, that's not-
that would be limited to all of the committees except diversity task force, which would be a smaller number.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Baumann. Yep. Yes. Yeah. Because we had 9 last year in curriculum council. Is that correct?
I believe so.
And that worked, Erin? 9 worked.
Yes, it did. It's just as we talk about our new 5-year plan, I may recommend to Dr. Pelletier and the board that we have some subcommittees so that as we look at all the different goals, we could add more people if they were interested.
Okay. Mr. Baumann?
What Vinny said about having, is that across the board 11 for every committee?
Or are we going to look at?
Yeah, it would be a number that we would try to keep the committees manageable in
No,
size.
I get that, but for every,
There
so
was-
the 11 would be the number for every committee.
Or if the board is comfortable with 13, we can go to 13. But I think anything above 13, when you start adding the board liaisons and the administration, that number's all of a sudden is 20. So
No, so it's for every committee.
it would be for, yeah, there was 4 committees that we mentioned. Okay. Any thoughts? Yeah, yep. Good stuff.
Again, I'm not a fan of limiting because we don't have the numbers knocking the door down, and we're going to lose some of these with people who don't participate. So,
But then
you know,
we could actually open it back up if that was the case. So
in my experience from being on the committees and attending as
Mm-hmm.
a guest, you know, people leave and we don't get replacements. So I would rather it be higher than less because the numbers aren't even as great as they are. They're good for us, but they're not great. You know what I'm saying? There's not that many people knocking the doors down to volunteer. And I think limiting that makes people not apply.
Right. Somebody else? Mr. Cerny?
Can we decide about whether the person can serve on more than one?
Well, I think let's figure out the size of the committee first, you know, and then we can do is we can maybe address that, unless you want to address that first,
Well, I'm
but
just concerned, I'm just contemplating what Sabrina brought up about, take just priority ones.
Yeah.
If that itself, everybody gets their first choice, and that divvies it out perfectly for those, for that 1, 2, 3, 4 committees, or comes close to it, then a lot of the problems solved, right?
Mhm.
Well, they can't be the same person, they like the number one once.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, that was my next thing we were going to want. Yeah, good.
So I'm fine with 11 as long as, let's say, 12 apply for legislative. Like last year, there was 1 extra on legislative,
Yeah.
and we said no. I think we should have just said yes because 1 person never came. So I do agree 11. I just hope that when we discuss, if there's something that's that close,
Mhm.
or we let that person know you can come as a visitor,
Mhm.
and if anything or a spot opens up, like we encourage those people,
Mhm.
if they want to come and watch,
Mhm.
leave that as is. But when it's close, where
Mhm.
last year we only said 9 and 10 applied for a committee, and we told 1 person no.
Mhm.
I'm hoping we could be a little flexible.
Okay. So what we could do is always open it up to people to be able to come as a visitor, or we've had alternates in years past where somebody serves as an alternate. But I do want to enforce that, that removal. If you miss 3 committee meetings and you're holding a seat that somebody would be better, I think we need to implement that.
Okay.
Absolutely. And I think that will also help control the numbers. So, yes, Steph.
As long as there's no health issue or something.
Yeah, no,
like
the
that.
ruling is with
It's
good
just
with good
blowing us
reason.
off.
Yeah, with good reason.
Can I put on the floor 13 then?
Well, it's going to come down to board majority. You're
Right.
making
No,
a
I'm
motion.
saying, but how do we
But
make?
all
How
I'm
do
going to
we
do is
vote on that?
I'm going to go around and
Okay.
we're going to ask where
All right.
everybody's comfort level is, and then we'll just go from there. So, Steph, I'm saying you're at 13.
Well, I'm at 100.
Okay.
But I'll accept 13.
All right. Vincent?
Yeah, 11's fine. I mean, to Laura's point,
Yeah.
plus or minus, I think we just figure out how to deal with it, but I'm fine with 11.
Okay. Mr. Bauman? Alex?
I'm good with 11.
Okay. Sabrina?
11 or 13. 11 or 13, I'm fine.
Okay. Laura?
11 with flexibility
Okay.
if we have 12 apply.
Sure, absolutely. Mr. Cerny?
So I'm 11 for legislative, 11 for budget, 11 for audit, and 11 for curriculum. I don't know, we're not discussing the rest of it.
We are. We're going to discuss that next. We're going to talk about that number as well.
Okay. But that's not part of the 11.
No,
question.
it's not.
Okay, so I'm good with that.
Okay, so I think we have a majority for 11 with some flexibility, okay, for alternates as well.
Just quickly, we may, and Laura might know off the top of her head, but is there a policy that says how many people are on audit?
Yeah, I think we can only have 4, maybe 5. Yeah.
Now, let me just to play devil's advocate here for a second. Is there a reason why that policy exists?
It's
Does it align with New York State, or is it something that a board decided?
It's something that's always been, I've been on the audit committee
No, I
for
mean, I'm
forever.
just for devil's advocate. I that's your, that's the one. that
I
you've
think
been on.
because it's sensitive information about numbers, and
Yeah, so our audit committee is mandated. We're required to have an audit committee it's required, it's one of the required committees. I'm not really sure why we have a maximum of 5. That might have just been a number that the board has set. But if that number is not mandated by the state, then we could change that policy. We can increase it if we want, you know?
Yeah, you could change the policy literally on audit committee, except for the diehards who
Yeah.
have been there.
Yeah.
People come to one audit committee meeting. We go
Yeah.
over numbers. It's like 4 hours long, just going over numbers. And any new people that have
Yeah.
ever showed up never come back.
Yeah.
So it's just been
Yeah.
the 4 of us or 5 of us for 10 years, literally. That's not a lie.
Yeah. Yeah. So right now, we go out with a tentative of 11, pending that information. 11, a maximum of 11 is high audit.
7.
Oh. Okay. All right. Diversity Task Force. Once again, this is one of those committees that has a lot of educators, a lot of kids, a lot of administrators. Last year, we limited it to 3. You can move that 3 up to 5, you know. But once again, you know, you don't want to take any of the time away from the children that are opening up and sharing their thoughts. You know, obviously, if there's an agreement to increase it, let's get that agreement and then figure out what that number is. Yeah.
Just a question in terms of, you know, I know we talked about charges, we haven't gotten there. What's the purpose of diversity? Because I don't think we've ever had a presentation at the end of the year in terms of the work they did.
Yeah.
So, you know, what is it that we're trying to accomplish, and would that then drive how many people, right?
Erin, you want to take that question?
Sure. Well, actually, I don't want to take over for Dr. Pelletier because we've had, conversation about it. It was a very new committee. I think we were sort of trying to figure out our charge as well. And we just wanted to get it established with varied voices throughout our community. I think we did that in our first year and just having a very safe space for just having conversation. And quite frankly, there's been times when, you know, issues come up that are political outside of SACHM. And, you know, are we even equipped to have those conversations? So this past year, we chose to really focus on our physical space. And is it a warm and welcoming space for our community members, especially at registration, district office when they come into our schools? We have not presented on it only because of the climate in terms of how, not that we wouldn't want to, but we've presented on a lot of things, and diversity was always that one where we were sort of ready, kind of ready. But I know that if we had a definite charge from the board, we would be happy to share the things that we've gone over the past few years. But I do want to say very clearly, we do not discuss anything around CRT as well.
Thank you, Ms. Hunt. Yeah, it's really an opportunity for us to reflect upon our district, our kids that are in the district, our community, and making sure that we are diverse in our inclusionary practices, that we are embracing all of our students. That physical space walkthrough this year really opened eyes here, really in this building, and that's why you see many of the pictures that we have up throughout the building and throughout this building, and we're going to be doing that in other schools as well, just making sure that we are welcoming to our students. So that's it, kind of across the board, making sure that we meet those guidelines and those that warm embrace for our kids. I think it's really important. And those conversations that our students have, diversity means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So it's kind of like that obscenity charge, right, Mr. Cerny? We talked about it in the past. I know what it is when I see it. It's hard to put into words, but it's a great task force. Our students really are our superstars on that task force, on that group, on that committee, not a task force anymore. And our staff, our community members as well, just making sure that we are a warm and welcoming environment, that the kids who are here, the books represent the kids that are here, the authors represent the kids that are here, the work that we're doing. I think it's really important that we have those conversations.
I'm going to go to Alex and then Mike.
Dr. Pelletier, I just want to piggyback on what you just said about for the kids. It's definitely there first. And I have a question about it being a safe space. You know, in the past, we've had a community member come up and share stories from that committee. And I have concerns about, is it a safe space? Is it something that we need to screen the people that we put on it better? And while I don't want to limit and I want everybody to share, I want the kids to know that we have their backs, that what they're saying is being kept confidential. And I have concerns about the confidentiality in that room and the safety of the children and the stories that they're sharing.
So I'll refer to Mrs. Hines, or defer to Mrs. Hines in regards to that, in terms of that. I will say that she does a fine job in protecting our kids and making them feel welcome and reaching out to them. And kids reach out to her, I know as well, once they hear the committee and the work that it does. So I know we work very hard to make it a safe space. I've popped in on a few of those meetings and thanked our students for being there. But Mrs. Hines, any concerns about like opening up to larger numbers or the confidentiality piece?
I think we're past the point of students feeling safe in that committee. I think it was more of one of what do we want to accomplish here? And I have felt over the past 2 years that our students know that we are there to really just focus on their individual needs, who they are as people, whether it's disabilities, whether it's, as you said, LGBTQ, race, what have you. And so I really do feel that from our committee meetings, our students know that we are here to embrace and to celebrate them. And have we had voices that have been, on a different side or a little challenging? Sure. But that's the whole point of a committee, is we welcome those. Have we had to have tough conversations with some committee members to ensure the safety of our students? Absolutely. That's our first and foremost charge. But I think moving forward, we have, as a board, you have certainly gone through the applications, and I would recommend that you would continue to do that to ensure that the safety of the committee is something that we can move forward with our students. But I do feel like any of the students who are going to be returning do feel like it is a safe environment, and they are excited to move forward. And even some of our seniors that have left us have really, it's been heartwarming to see them leave, because I feel like being on the committee, it's been better for them to have shared their experience.
Mrs. Hines, just for clarity, you've done an amazing job steering and guiding it. You can't control what everybody says and does. So I want to make you in the clear. You've done a really good job. I'm concerned for us. Are we screening the applications properly because of
Sure.
past
Yeah,
practice?
no, I certainly did not take it, nor do any of us think that
you've done a really
we would
nice
take
job.
like our role as running a committee. A committee is, you can't control what people are going to say or do. But I do think that as a board, you've done a really good job of vetting through that, and I would just implore you to continue to do that.
So for that number, that group is already a large group. Ms. Esterny? Okay. So it says at least.
We have two policies. We have
Yeah.
two different policies. One talks about at least three. This is your policy, this is the audit committee. At least three. Then you have audit committee charter. The audit committee is comprised of at least five, so we have a little bit of an inconsistency.
Mhm.
At least 5 community members or 5 members? At least 5 members.
The 5 are 2 board members and 3 community members, and the other one that has the 3 cannot be an employee, cannot be someone who provides any goods or services to the district, or has any interest in somebody who provides that.
No. So you can make it, you could go to 11. Yeah. Hasn't been around that long.
Your folks, students, staff. Yes.
Large group, and like I said, I would, the group is really about the kids, okay, and what they'd like to see in the school. But I don't have a problem increasing that 3 to a 5, only because of the number of applicants. But I'd be cautious about going above 5. How
many administrators are on there?
If I had to, staff total, it's probably about 12 to 15 that come each time. Right. Students, we always have between 5 and 8 as well. We have our E&L students, special education students, peer educators. Yeah.
I think you maxed it out at 25 total.
I'm okay with 5, just recognize it's gonna be almost close to 30.
we're going to go around with the diversity? Everybody okay with 5? Increasing it to 5? I know. I don't want to. Vinny? 5? Ms. Bauer? Okay. All right. Laura, we said we're going to move the diversity task force community members up from 3 to 5.
Perfect.
Okay. All right. So that's done. Now, the only other 2 questions is actually one. Do we want to start off with 1 committee per person until we put people on it, and then look at second choices, and then fill them so we can max them out. Try and give everybody there first. Yeah. And so we're going to go with first choices, one committee per person. And then if we have a second choice and we have room on a committee, which I think we will with audit, we could start giving people second choices until we reach a maximum of 11 committee members. Everybody's okay with that? Yes. Okay. So really, the last thing is that we kind of drive the whole thing home that, look, 3 meetings without a good excuse, and that good excuse could be shared with the board or with the chairperson. If somebody's sick or going through a tough time, parents sick, we're not going to remove that person. But a person that just, I'm not going to that meeting, and with that person's taking a spot up, that we're going to be on board with saying, hey, you know what, we warn you after the second missed meeting, third missed meeting, we're going to replace you.
That's why the secretary needs good notes.
Yeah.
Just to bring up what Laura had said as well, if we're on the cusp because of that exact issue, we've both been on committees where people have dropped off 2 meetings later, and it was a seat that was gone. And then, so I would put the little blurb in that if there's 11 but 12 on the committee, you know what I mean? Just because they do drop off, it happens. People overcommit or didn't realize the meeting could go 2 hours when we want it to go an hour.
So I think what we should do in that situation is that if we have to remove somebody, when we have the committee reports, who's ever reporting on a committee, come back and say, look, we have 8 showing regularly. We have several that are really on that cusp. After the next meeting, I'd like to recommend that we put additional people on.
But we need a procedure to catch the people up.
And that would be the
because we don't want to
minutes.
have to spend the meeting catching them up to all the work we've done, especially with legislative last year. It was a lot of work, even the budget with doing all the stuff we did for the Chromebooks. You want to make sure that we're not dragging the rest of the committee down.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. My recommendation is that we look at the applications, and what we'll start doing is maybe formulating those committees. So maybe the next meeting we can approve it. Okay. Even if we have a tentative meeting on the 24th, we have all these people in their first choices and possibly even in their second choices. We could probably approve it as early as the 24th if we come out just for a vote for staff and things like that. All right. Everybody's okay with that?
And in order to decide, we have to have a charge. We have to discuss what the charges are.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know what we've done in years past is, we put the board liaisons in charge of looking at those numbers and picking that committee. So for example, 1 or 2 board members were assigned to budget advisory. They looked at the numbers, they picked the first choices, okay, and here's the committee. And then we went to the next one, first choices, here's the committee. I don't know how you want to do it. I don't know if you want to, obviously my recommendation is that when we pick for purposes of confidentiality, we do it in exec session. Yeah. We're going to be discussing people. I don't want to discuss it where it's going to be live forever on YouTube. That we do it in exec session. We do it, in an organized manner, and we do it quickly. We can get back to, getting out here and approving it. So, we could even do it on the 24th if you want, we have a tentative meeting. We are definitely going to be getting together for a retreat, but we want to spend, 40 minutes, 30 minutes before the retreat starts to pick those names. We could do that. Yeah.
Can we get a list separating the staff?
Yes, I think, Allison will get that out to us tomorrow or whenever you share a chance. That would be an easy thing to do. Yeah.
And we'll work on this maybe at home and then bring our own.
We could. Look, we can go first choices, for each committee. And if we fall within that 11, it's going to be a real easy thing to do. The diversity one is the one that I think I said.
To 5, you're going to have those people having to shift for there. And a lot of their second choices was curriculum council,
right?
Which is going to fill quickly. So
can we make alternates and pick alternates just so that in case?
The other thing is then you're going to have all those people showing up.
No, you don't have to have them show up, but they're on deck.
Yeah.
No.
I would kind of stray away from that only so that you don't have a lot of people showing up.
Okay.
Yeah, we did have alternates the first year for diversity task force, and everybody showed up.
Okay.
Yeah. So, all right, everybody's okay with that plan? So we'll sort it out, and we'll list, by first choice, second choice. All right. Board of Education, future discussion items. Anybody? Ms. Pickwitz?
I don't have a future discussion, but Rob and I went to the SESI thing on Monday, and I just want to say what an awesome program that is. It's my first year. I was actually to go and see and walk through, speak to the teachers there. Ms. Anderson is fabulous. All the teachers that we got to talk to, the kids with their smiling faces. I never realized how large that program is and how amazing it is, and the activities that they do, and the experience, the social piece, keeping their skills so that they don't lose any over the summer. It's just such an extraordinary program. So I just wanted to thank everybody who's involved with that, because I love it. I didn't want to leave. I'm like, let's go again.
Yeah, we actually stayed for both sessions. So we stayed for the younger elementary kids, and we stayed for the secondary kids. But it was pretty amazing to see.
They went sailing,
Yeah.
bowling.
Yeah.
I was like, I want to come to this program. This is awesome.
It's really, yeah. And
it's-
they spend their time with their family here. You know, their Sachem family. It's really amazing in the summer.
We have educators that live in other districts, and some of the feedback we got from some of the educators is that I want to bring this back to my home district. This, our school district doesn't have anything like this, so it's really amazing. Yeah, Mr. Bauman.
So I just, and it's actually related to what Ms. Pickwood said. So they have a unified, have you heard of the unified sports programs? So I know a lot of the surrounding districts have like these programs in their schools. A good friend of mine is actually coaches the unified basketball for ESM. So he was telling me about it, and much to my surprise, we don't have anything like that.
I don't know if that's completely the case. Ms. Trombetta?
So we did
Oh, we
sign
did.
up through Section 11 to have it, to run it both at Sachem East and Sachem North. And we ran into complications with getting students involved in it, because the way that the unified sports works, you have a population that's special ed, and then you have a the general ed student population as well. On the east side, we couldn't get enough special ed students to participate, and on the north side, it was the general student population that we couldn't get to participate. We had coaches, everything set up to go. So it's something that we're not giving up on. We're going to continue to try, but we are signed up as a district through Section 11 to have that as well, because it is a wonderful, wonderful program.
Yeah,
And we certainly want our students involved.
Yeah, this guy was telling me all about it, and I'm like, oh my God, this sounds amazing.
Yeah.
So, and when I'm not on the board, I'll volunteer to coach.
Perfect.
If we can do that. Can we
It's
do that?
wonderful, and it's growing across the island, so hopefully it'll continue, but we will be part of that.
Great.
We'll put
Thanks.
together a unified tennis for you, just so.
Middle school tennis.
Ms. Volpe?
Another, on a different track, I have parents reach out asking about sections being broken. And I went through the lists of our class sizes, and some schools are teetering. So what can we tell the community on that, or can we discuss it next time? Because I know it's not on the agenda.
I'm happy to say that we continue to look at this. We see teetering as well. We do have to balance in terms of the numbers of staff we have and where they are and moving. We actually just recently moved a staff member from one building to another to cover a section that broke. So we do see it. These are targets again. That's something that we need to share and reinforce. They're not cutoffs or anything like that. So obviously we do as our due diligence. Mr. Trombetta looks at this. We look at it together weekly to see where we are. And as we go over, we look at resources again and numbers. And so if they're not over yet, though, we're not going to necessarily push them over unless we know for a reason why something's going to happen someplace. Yep, Steph.
Just because I haven't been involved in that part, can you predict, like some of the fourth grades I see are teetering in some buildings? Do you have a way to predict how many kids in the past showed up last minute and then broke a section?
We actually do look each year. I get a weekly report that's shared with the board and with Patty in terms of numbers. Right now, we're about 80 kids fewer than we were last year, the same week ending. And so we are down, but there are some areas where we see there are certain numbers, and we talk to principals constantly. So there may actually be a building where, oh my gosh, they're right at the number in both sections. But we spoke to a principal who told us, I know this child and this child are moving out. and they're moved. So we don't jump in to make a change where we know then, well, what are we going to do? Now we're going to go backward. So you can't do that. So we're certainly cognizant of it. We work very hard to make sure that we're on top of it, without a doubt.
Just to give you a little bit of history, we've broken sections on Labor Day weekend, that were over. And the reason is that we try to hold to that commitment to our community, that we're going to keep target numbers at a certain. Otherwise, what happens is that those communities within the elementary schools come out, and for the September's and October's meetings get really, really challenging when you're over. But my suggestion and recommendation has always been is that when you have a self-contained class or you have a ICT class, that's at capacity or one below, and that there's going to be kids coming from other schools that are going to transfer into it, those are the ones that we really have to look at. Those students, because we know they're going to grow. Yeah. So we'll continue to keep an eye on it and report back to the board on that.
The Friday packet will have the update, and any sections that are close will be highlighted to let you know that we're still watching it, and any sections that are over, which they aren't as of today.
Well, even
then
from a
that would
few
be
years ago,
decision.
I've seen massive improvement in this, and I have to ask because people are worried, and I don't have the answer because I'm not doing your job. So but I've seen massive improvement in this over the years with it. So I have faith.
I think the answer that we can just, maybe just the easy answer is it could be up to the first day of school. That would be we're watching it, and somebody can move in tomorrow. 2 people can move in, and that's not, predictable. So the answer is we were going to try to stick as close to the target numbers as possible, but there is a possibility so that we keep the size where we want it right up to the first day.
They know that they should make sure people are paying attention to it because they're worried. That's all. I don't think I know they understand the process.
Yeah.
They just worry.
Stephanie, my hair is almost like Rob's now. And 2 years ago, I looked like young Mr. Piccirillo here, my hair. So we're watching, believe me.
Any future discussion items? I know, Ms. Isernia?
I guess for the 7th, we should list board committee charges. Like I think legislative, we should charge with that. Training.
Everybody okay with that? Charges for the board, for the committees?
Yeah, the subgroup board members should come back, right, with that thought process
Mhm.
and share it with the board.
Absolutely. Any other future discussion items? All right. Our next scheduled board meeting is a tentative meeting. I just want to make it very clear. It's for August 24th. We do have a scheduled retreat that night. As of right now, if there's not a lot to vote on or to put on an agenda, it'll be the meeting will be canceled, with the exception that we'll have a retreat that night. But there is a possibility we may have to come out and approve last minute hires and things like that. But it is a tentative meeting to be determined. All right. Our next executive session, I need a motion to go into exec session to discuss a complaint from a community member that's been known to the board. Ms. Isernia? All right, second. Mr. Piccirillo, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right. Good evening. Thank you so much for coming out tonight, and congratulations, Patty, once again. All right. And Mr. Miller, congratulations.